back then segregation was real, and I lived in a triracial community. You know, blacks and Indians were all the same. You either white or you weren't. That's just the way it was. Certain towns you didn't go to, they wouldn't serve you. I remember that. I remember being 9 years old going through that with my dad. But the KKK was big in that part of North Carolina. I'm not going to call it those towns because a lot of these people want to forget that stuff. But I remember the KKK being in a car in December driving back from Fayetteville, North Carolina, back to Pembroke, and the cars being stopped. And I didn't, you know, we were probably 6, 7, 8 years old, and they were burning a cross in the median on the highway. You know, you got traffic going north and south. We were going south back home, and the KKK was looking for, to this day I detest the N-word, but they were, looking for non-white people, and they were making an example out of some of them. And our parents were scared to death, monitoring what was going on. I don't remember how it ended. I don't know why I don't remember, but I remember that. But the KKK was always active in our community. But on that particular night, Mr. Sampson, who ran back then it was called Esso, not Exxon. He ran the Esso gas station. Anytime I need air, my bicycle tires pumped up, I go to Mr. Sim station. He had a Coke machine. It was only a nickel. I remember going there for that. This was the early 60s. Because everybody got around on bicycles. I didn't get my driver's license until I was almost 18. I rode my bicycle. But maybe I was after my 17th birthday. But Mr. Sim, my father, my best friend to this day, who's an attorney in North Carolina, my father's best friend was his father, and he's been my best friend since we were 8, 9 years old. As my brother just talked with him yesterday. But all those guys went down to make a stand. All the Pembroke guys always had guns. Guns was a big part of our community because everybody hunted. They weren't hunting for sport; they were hunting to feed people back then. We only had little mom and pop grocery stores, and my grandfather ran one of them, and most everybody got their food their own credit. He used a pencil and a composition book to write down how much you owed him. I remember he didn't have a cash register. He just had a drawer you'd pull out. It had scoops for the change and had the long thing for the dollar bills. That was it. But I grew up in that. But the Hayes Pond incident was something that's been passed down as a source of pride, and there's a storytelling about that. If you were to research the Lumbees, one of the in North Carolina, all the way up into the Cherokee Mountains, Appalachian area, Cumberland Trail, and that's a heavy tourist spot in the summers, and they have these outdoor dramas. Well, Karen's mother's sister's son, her first cousin David, was a drama major. He went to New York, did all that stuff, but he directed a play called Strike at the Wind. That's the name of it, and it told the story of that, of the Lumbee people. That started with Sir Walter Raleigh being tasked with coming over to, Christopher Columbus was from Spain, right? Mm-hmm. And that was 1492. So in the 1600s, they're still exploring new land, and people were, European settlers came from Europe. European settlers were white, so they were coming over and selling for new land, and that's when they would find these Native Americans, these Indians, these certain areas, and so from the 20s, my father was born in 1929. My grandfather was born in 1897. He died when I was 15. I used to work for him after school every day and on Saturdays when I didn't have something to do. My grandmother was born in 1912, my dad in 1929, and my mother in 1932. So my grandma and grandfather lived through the Depression, and my mom and dad were Depression babies. And people in our area is all we had. You know, you had Native American people, and then in different areas you had African American people, and then you had the Ku Klux Klan people, and they were, you know, back then they were all into, you know, white power, mongrels. They called us mongrels, all these things. But that night in Hayes Pond, them Lumbee boys, those Lumbee boys decided, you're not going to come in here and have a KK rally on our.
Why did they decide then?
Because it was so publicized, you know.
The rally.
Right.
Okay.
You know, you publicize things then by, you know, it's like a wanted poster.
Leaflets.
Yeah, leaflets. It's all over the place. They would, and they would knock on doors and give them out. And that's how they found out about them. But they went in there and they had a light up, and I can't remember the guy's name.
Shot it out, right?
No, well, the Grand Master.
James Cole.
James Cole. His wife was there. I remember that. But somebody shot the light out, and then there was a bunch of shooting, and people were running to get under their trucks and cars because they didn't want to get shot. And by the time the dust settled, they had run those KKK boys out of that area, and that was something to be proud of. You know, for us, that's you know, it's one for the good guys. We made a stand.